Captain Laura Mitchell stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Concordette's reception hall, her reflection ghosting against the starlit void beyond. In her hand, a glass of champagne remained untouched, a prop in this diplomatic charade. Behind her, the muffled laughter of alien diplomats pierced through the ambient hum of environmental systems. The year was 2187, and humanity's crowning achievement, the Starship Pioneer, floated in full view outside the window. Her clean lines and reinforced hull plates caught the light of the station's external illumination. To Mitchell's eyes, the vessel represented decades of human perseverance, the culmination of countless sacrifices made during the Mars conflicts. To everyone else in the room, it was a joke. "Observe, my fellow representatives," a silky voice cut through her thoughts. "The humans have managed to achieve spaceflight using what appears to be recycled cargo containers and a modified fusion reactor." Ambassador Kexthu's translucent appendages rippled with amusement as he addressed his growing audience. Mitchell's jaw clenched. The Pioneer's fusion drive was a marvel of engineering, capable of sustained acceleration that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. But compared to the crystalline structures and quantum matrices of Centauri vessels, it might as well have been steam-powered. "Captain Mitchell," Kexthu called out, his translator producing perfect English with just a hint of condescension. "Please, join us. We were just discussing your vessel's unique approach to waste management. Is it true you still need to shield your reactor core with physical materials?" The gathering of alien diplomats tittered. Mitchell turned, meeting the ambassador's compound eyes with a steady gaze. "Indeed, Ambassador. We find that certain principles of physics are best respected rather than circumvented." "How charmingly primitive," a Centauri noble chimed in, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with mirth. "Next, they'll tell us they respect gravity by falling." More laughter. Mitchell took a measured sip of her champagne, watching as Kexthu approached the window. The ambassador's ceremonial robes, woven from living material that shifted colors with his movements, made the Pioneer's hull look even more utilitarian in comparison. "You know," Kexthu mused, raising his own drink, "I believe I can improve your vessel's capabilities right now." With deliberate slowness, he tilted his glass, letting the iridescent liquid spill onto the digital display, showing Pioneer's specifications. The liquid sizzled, eating through the surface like acid. "There, a more efficient ventilation system." The diplomatic corps erupted in laughter. Mitchell set her glass down with careful precision, the small clink lost in the noise. "At least we build our own ships, Ambassador," she said quietly. The laughter stopped. Kexthu's appendages stiffened, their natural bioluminescence darkening. "I beg your pardon, Captain. Our vessels may look primitive to you, but every bolt, every weld, every circuit was designed and manufactured by human hands. We understand every system because we built them ourselves. Evolution teaches us that borrowed magnificence often conceals fundamental weaknesses." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Kexthu's translator crackled as he switched to a formal diplomatic register. "Your species' pride in its limitations is noted, Captain. One hopes it provides comfort in the coming cycles." As the ambassador glided away, his entourage following like a colorful wake, Mitchell's first officer approached. Commander David Rodriguez had been watching from the sidelines, his dark eyes missing nothing. "That was a shot across the bow, Captain," he murmured. Mitchell nodded, watching the Centauri delegation disappear into the crowd. "Did you send the sensor logs I requested?" "Yes. Earth Command has them now. Whatever the Centauri are hiding about their tech base, they really didn't like you hinting at it." "Good." Mitchell turned back to the window, to her ship waiting silently in the void. "Keep our systems running at minimal efficiency. Let them think the Pioneer is exactly what they see, a primitive vessel struggling to keep up with their magnificence. And if they take the bait," a ghost of a smile crossed Mitchell's face, Then they'll learn what humanity's primitive vessels can really do. Lieutenant James Cooper wiped the grease from his hands as he studied the holographic readout floating above his workstation. The Pioneer's engineering bay hummed with the steady pulse of the fusion drive, a sound the Centauri called prehistoric drumming. But Cooper knew better. Beneath that deliberate rhythm lay something far more interesting. Captain to engineering, his comm unit crackled. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" Cooper manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a cluster of anomalous energy signatures. "Remember how the Centauri mocked our radiation shielding for being crude metallic plates instead of their quantum barrier tech? Turns out primitive has its advantages. We're picking up ghost signatures that their fancy sensors can't detect." Through the comm link, he heard Captain Mitchell's sharp intake of breath. "Explain." "Their quantum barriers are too perfect. They filter out everything they consider noise. Our old-school shielding lets us see the whole spectrum, including things they've programmed their sensors to ignore." Cooper highlighted a series of patterns in the data, like, for instance, the wake signatures of cloaked vessels. Mitchell's voice dropped to a whisper. "How many?" "3 Centauri corvettes, running dark, on the edge of the Nexus colony's territorial space. They're using some kind of advanced cloaking tech, but their drive systems still leave ripples in the background radiation. Ripples our primitive sensors are excellent at detecting." The engineering bay's lighting shifted as Pioneer adjusted its orbit. Cooper waited as Mitchell processed the implications. They'd spent the last month enduring mockery at every port, watching as the Centauri demonstrated their technological superiority at every opportunity. But something hadn't added up. Species that accepted Centauri protection seemed to disappear from galactic affairs entirely. "Send me everything," Mitchell ordered. "And Lieutenant, keep our sensors running at minimal power. Let them think we're still struggling with basic maintenance." Cooper grinned. "Already done, Captain. As far as they can tell, we're barely keeping our coolant systems operational. Speaking of which," he pulled up another data set. "You'll want to see this pattern analysis." A hologram shifted, showing a timeline of Centauri fleet movements over the past 6 months. Overlaid on the display were the dates when various species had voluntarily joined the Centauri sphere of influence. Every civilization they publicly mocked at diplomatic functions, Cooper explained, received a humanitarian intervention within 3 months, usually after their ships started experiencing mysterious technical difficulties. "And now they're mocking us," Mitchell mused. "How long have those corvettes been watching the colony?" Cooper checked his readings. "Based on radiation decay, about 2 weeks. Right after the reception, where Ambassador Kexthu made his little scene with the specifications display." A new voice joined the conversation, Commander Rodriguez from the bridge. "Captain, you need to see this. One of our long-range probes just picked up something near the Helios mining outpost." A hologram flickered as new data streamed in. Cooper's blood ran cold as he recognized the signature pattern. A Centauri dreadnought, running silent, its massive form hidden behind layers of technological deception. To their advanced sensors, the mining outpost's outdated defense grid would be laughably primitive. "Just like the Pioneers. They're not just scouting anymore," Cooper said quietly. "That's an invasion fleet gathering." "But they haven't finished their mockery campaign," Rodriguez protested. "All their previous patterns show at least 3 months of diplomatic degradation before they strike." Mitchell's laugh held no humor. "Because we're not worth the full 3 months, Commander. In their eyes, we're so far beneath them technologically that we don't rate the complete diplomatic charade." Cooper studied the readouts again, noting how the Centauri ships positioned themselves in a classic attack formation, one they thought human sensors were too primitive to detect. "Your orders, Captain." "Keep playing the part," Mitchell replied. "Let them think their cloaking technology is perfect. Let them think we're blind. And Lieutenant, send everything we've got to Earth Command. Authorization code, Wooden Horse." Cooper's eyes widened at the code phrase. "Understood, Captain." Cooper out. As the comm link closed, he patted the engineering console affectionately. Hear that, old girl? Keep playing dumb. The better the joke, the harder they'll fall. The message came through Pioneer's communications array at 300 ship time, breaking through layers of interference with a desperate persistence. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, working the night shift in communications, almost dismissed it as background radiation until she noticed the pattern hidden in the static. "Captain Mitchell to the bridge," she called, her fingers flying over the decryption console. "Priority signal from Nexus Colony." Mitchell arrived within minutes, her uniform indicating she hadn't slept. "Source: Mining Sector 7, Hayes reported, isolating the signal. "It's using an old Earth frequency, something that would look like noise to modern sensors. The kind of thing our outdated equipment still monitors." The static resolved into a video feed, and the bridge crew fell silent. The footage showed massive underground chambers, carved deep into Nexus Colony's crust. But instead of automated mining equipment, they saw rows of biological containment pods, each holding a different alien species. Workers shuffled between the pods, their bodies modified with crude cybernetic attachments that forced them to continue despite obvious exhaustion. "Those are the Calaxians," Commander Rodriguez whispered, pointing to a group of crystalline beings whose natural bioluminescence had dimmed to almost nothing. The Zentari announced they'd volunteered their entire system for mining operations 6 months ago. The camera panned, revealing more horrors. Organic processing plants lined the walls, systematically breaking down and rebuilding the biology of new arrivals to optimize them for different mining conditions. Near one of these facilities, Mitchell spotted something that made her grip the command rail until her knuckles went white. "Freeze frame," she ordered. "Enhance Sector 4. The image zoomed in on a processing line of new arrivals. Among them were unmistakably human forms, crew members from lost colonial vessels that had supposedly suffered drive malfunctions near Zentari space. "They've already started," Cooper said from his engineering station. "Those are our people, from the ships that disappeared while testing new Zentari-inspired drive systems." Mitchell's voice was ice. "How long have they been planning this?" The video continued, showing a Zentari overseer explaining the process to a group of observers. The audio was garbled, but phrases cut through. "Biological optimization. Perfect workforce. Species-specific adaptation. Earth's population will provide excellent mining stock." "Signal origin," Mitchell demanded. Hayes checked her readings. "It's coming from Dr. Marcus Chen. He was part of the cultural exchange program 6 months ago. According to records, he accepted a Zentari research position and cut contact." The video feed crackled with a new message. "They're not just taking our technology. They're taking our people. The mockery, the diplomatic incidents, the technical assistance. It's all preparation. Earth is next. Don't let them." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Mitchell straightened, her decision made. "Send everything to Earth Command. Maximum encryption. Commander Rodriguez, begin quiet evacuation of all non-essential personnel from the mining outposts near Zentari space. Make it look like equipment failures, staff rotations, anything but a coordinated withdrawal." "And the Pioneer?" Cooper asked. "We maintain our deception. In fact," Mitchell's lips curved in a cold smile, "we're going to look even more incompetent. Cooper, I want visible reactor leaks, obvious shield fluctuations, the works. Make us look like we're falling apart at the seams." "Mom." Hayes looked up from her station. "Earth Command is responding. Priority code. The signal's encrypted beyond my clearance." Mitchell entered her command authorization, and a single line of text appeared on her personal display. "Operation Wooden Horse is now active. Continue appearing vulnerable. Help is closer than they think." She looked around at her crew, seeing the same mix of anger and determination on every face. The Zentari think they've seen everything humanity has to offer. They think our primitive technology, our limited understanding, makes us perfect targets for their expansion. Cooper's grin held no humor. They haven't seen anything yet. No, Mitchell agreed, watching the Centauri ships maneuver in patterns they thought were invisible to human sensors. But they will. Humanity didn't survive the Mars conflicts by being easy prey. Let them think we're weak. Let them think we're blind. She turned to her crew, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. When they finally strike, we'll show them exactly what a primitive species can do. Absolutely not, Cooper protested, staring at the retrofit plans in horror. You want me to make the Pioneer look worse? We'll be a laughingstock. Admiral Sarah Harrison's hologram smiled from the secure briefing room. That's exactly what we want, Lieutenant. Operation Wooden Horse requires us to appear not just primitive, but desperate. Incompetent, even. Mitchell studied the schematics floating between them. The modifications would make the Pioneer look like a ship on its last legs. Mismatched hull plates, visible welding seams, and coolant vents that leaked harmless but impressive-looking plasma trails. What about the new systems? She asked. Harrison's hologram gestured, and new schematics appeared. Hidden in plain sight, the quantum torpedo launchers will be disguised as faulty waste processing units. The dark matter drive goes behind those broken cargo bay panels, and the neural interface combat system will look like a malfunctioning life support array. Cooper finished, beginning to understand. They'll be so busy laughing at our apparent incompetence, they won't realize they're looking at a warship. Precisely. Harrison's expression hardened. The Centauri's arrogance is their weakness. They'd forgotten that looking advanced and being advanced aren't the same thing. While they've been stealing and copying technology they barely understand, we've been developing our own paths. Mitchell traced a finger along the holographic hull design. How many other ships are getting similar modifications? All of them. Earth's entire fleet is undergoing a strategic downgrade in appearance. The Centauri spies will report exactly what we want them to see. A civilization desperately trying to keep up with their superiors and failing miserably. Cooper had moved to the engineering schematics, his initial horror transforming into professional appreciation. These power signatures, we're not just hiding our capabilities. We're making them look like mistakes. The quantum core's energy pattern will register as a fusion reactor on the verge of collapse, Harrison confirmed. Their sensors will detect instability, fluctuations, and signs of imminent failure. What they won't detect is the power plant capable of matching their flagship. And the crew, Mitchell asked quietly, are being trained to maintain the deception. Every communication, every public appearance, every sensor reading must reinforce the image of a primitive species struggling with basic technology. Harrison's hologram flickered. The hardest part will be enduring their mockery without revealing our hand too soon. Cooper snorted. You should have seen the last diplomatic reception. Captain Mitchell practically had to bite her tongue in half. It was worth it, Mitchell said. The more they underestimate us, the more careless they become. Their cloaked ships aren't even trying to hide from what they think are outdated sensors anymore. Harrison nodded. Keep gathering intelligence. We need to know exactly where they plan to strike first. In the meantime, she gestured at the schematics. How long to complete the refit? Cooper did some quick calculations. 3 weeks to install everything and make it look like we didn't install anything. The trick will be the calibrations. These systems have to appear to be malfunctioning in very specific ways. You have 2 weeks, Harrison said. Our intelligence suggests the Centauri are accelerating their timetable. They think we're so primitive that we don't need the full softening up period they usually employ. Mitchell's smile was sharp. Their arrogance is almost doing our work for us. Almost, Harrison agreed. But we only get one shot at this. If they realize what we're actually capable of before we're ready. The Admiral's hologram straightened. Maintain your cover. Let them mock our vessels, our technology, our capabilities. Let them think their conquest will be easy. And when it's time? Cooper asked. The Admiral's reply was cold as space itself. When it's time, show them exactly why humanity survived its own wars long enough to reach the stars. Harrison out. As the hologram faded, Mitchell turned to Cooper. "Well, Lieutenant, ready to make the Pioneer look like she's held together with spare parts and optimism?" Cooper's grin was fierce. "Oh yes, Captain. By the time I'm done, we'll be the most sophisticated piece of junk in the galaxy." The Zentari attack fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls catching the light of New Mars' twin suns. 6 capital ships, each bristling with technology centuries ahead of anything humanity officially possessed. Ambassador Kexthu's flagship led the formation, its quantum sensors already scanning the colony's defenses. "How primitive," he purred, watching the colony's automated defense platforms track his fleet with visible targeting lasers. "They're still using light-based targeting systems. Initiate the standard subjugation protocol." His tactical officer's appendages rippled with amusement. "My lord, these humans are so far beneath us technologically, perhaps we should skip the preliminary steps." No, Kexthu chided. "Procedure must be maintained. Send the standard welcome message." In New Mars Colony's Defense Command, Captain Mitchell watched the Zentari fleet's approach on Pioneer's outdated sensors. Her ship drifted nearby, venting plasma from apparently damaged coolant systems. "Incoming transmission," Hayes reported. "Full spectrum broadcast." Kexthu's hologram materialized in the command center, his translucent form radiating smug superiority. "People of New Mars Colony, your primitive attempts at colonization have put this sector at risk. The Zentari Concordat offers you protection and guidance. Your surrender will be met with mercy, your resources will be properly managed, and your population will be optimized for efficiency." Mitchell nodded to Hayes. The communication officer transmitted their prepared response, a garbled, static-filled message that made them sound like they were having technical difficulties even managing basic communication. "Their defense grid is targeting our secondary shields," the tactical officer reported. "They can't even detect our primary defense systems." Kexthu's bioluminescence pulsed with pleasure. "Begin the humanitarian intervention. Disable their primitive defenses with minimal damage. We want their infrastructure intact for repurposing." The first Zentari cruiser moved forward, its weapon systems powering up. That's when Cooper's voice came through Mitchell's private comm channel. "They took the bait, Captain. Their sensors are completely focused on our primitive emissions. All ships," Mitchell broadcast on a frequency that looked like background radiation, "execute Operation Wooden Horse." The seemingly malfunctioning defense platforms suddenly shifted their targeting frequencies, their primitive lasers revealing themselves as quantum-locked targeting arrays. The Pioneer's leaking plasma vents snapped shut, and panels that looked like hull damage fell away to reveal weapon ports. "What is this?" Kexthu demanded as new energy signatures bloomed across his tactical display. "Impossible. Their technology is centuries behind." The first quantum torpedo erupted from what his sensors had identified as a faulty waste management system. It struck his Lid cruiser's impenetrable quantum shields at exactly the frequency they were programmed to ignore, designed to look like harmless background radiation. The ship's crystalline hull shattered like glass. Multiple hostile contacts. His tactical officer screamed. Emerging from the plasma leaks, human boarding teams. They're inside our shield frequencies. Mitchell's voice cut through the Zentari command channel, transmitted through their own supposedly secure network. "You thought our targeting lasers were primitive, Ambassador. They weren't targeting your ships. They were painting your shield frequencies." Pioneer surged forward, its real engines igniting with power that matched the Zentari flagship. Across the battlefield, other damaged human ships revealed their true nature, striking with weapons specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses in stolen Zentari technology. "Fall back," Kexthu ordered. "Recalibrate the shields. Push their frequencies." "They can't." Cooper's voice joined the channel. "Your shield technology is impressive, Ambassador, but you never fully understood how it worked, did you? You just copied it from other species. We built ours from scratch. We know exactly how they function. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, the pride of the Zentari fleet lay in ruins, defeated by the very ships they had mocked as primitive. The few surviving vessels fled in disarray, their commanders struggling to understand how they had been so completely outmaneuvered. On Pioneer's Bridge, Mitchell opened a channel to Earth Command. Phase 1 complete. The Zentari's first strike force has been eliminated. Minimal damage to our forces. Admiral Harrison's response was brief. Well done, Captain. Now, let's show them what else these primitive vessels can do. The recording of Pioneer's victory spread through the quantum networks like wildfire. In secret chambers and hidden resistance bases across Zentari-controlled space, enslaved species gathered to watch humanity's primitive vessels tear apart the oppressor's superior fleet. Lieutenant Cooper stood before a diverse group of resistance leaders in a hidden bunker beneath the Galaxian crystal mines. The crystalline beings glowed with renewed hope, their natural bioluminescence brightening the chamber. Beside them, representatives from a dozen subjugated species leaned forward, their attention fixed on the holographic display. The secret isn't building better technology, Cooper explained, manipulating the hologram to show Pioneer's true systems hidden beneath its rough exterior. It's making them think they're better than you. The Zentari are so convinced of their superiority that they don't even bother looking for threats that appear primitive. A Galaxian elder, his crystal form dulled by years in the mines, raised a faceted appendage. But their sensors are beyond anything we could hope to match. How can we hide from them? Cooper grinned. We don't hide. We show them exactly what they expect to see. He brought up new schematics. These are designs for what we call masking systems. Simple technology, easily built from materials you can find in any mining operation. They don't try to block Zentari scans. They just make everything look less advanced than it is. The resistance leaders studied the plans with growing excitement. A Nexian engineer, her purple skin marked with neural interface scars, pointed to a particular design. These power signatures, they're deliberately flawed. Exactly, Cooper confirmed. The Zentari are looking for advanced energy patterns. Show them something that looks crude and inefficient, and their sensors automatically filter it out as background noise. It's like wearing camouflage made of technological inadequacy. Captain Mitchell's voice came through Cooper's comm unit. Show them the footage from Outpost 7, Lieutenant. The hologram shifted to show a recent battle. A seemingly decrepit mining vessel, trailing plasma and broadcasting distress signals, limped toward a Zentari patrol. The patrol ships moved to intercept, their sensors detecting nothing but a failing reactor core and primitive shield systems. The resistance leaders watched in amazement as the mining vessel suddenly transformed, its false exterior falling away to reveal advanced weapon systems. The Zentari ships, their sensors still filtering out what they considered technological noise, never saw the killing blow coming. We call it tactical regression, Cooper explained. The art of hiding advanced technology behind primitive facades. The Zentari's greatest weakness is their contempt for anything they consider beneath them. The Galaxian elders' glow pulsed with understanding. Our mining equipment, we could modify it using these principles. They never bother scanning it closely. It's too primitive to warrant their attention. Now you're thinking like a human, Cooper said. The Zentari stole most of their technology from other species. They understand how to use it, but not why it works. That makes them vulnerable to anyone who truly understands their own tech, no matter how basic it seems. The Nexian engineer was already adapting the plans for their own use. We can hide resistance communications in what looks like equipment feedback. Smuggle weapons in containers that register as waste storage. Use their arrogance against them. Mitchell's voice returned. That's exactly what we did. Every time they mocked our ships, every time they dismissed us as primitive, they were helping us perfect our deception. Now it's your turn. The resistance leaders shared looks of determination. Years of oppression had taught them patience. Years of being underestimated had taught them the value of appearing weak. Now, humanity was showing them how to turn those lessons into weapons. Remember, Cooper said, displaying one final schematic, the full details of Pioneer's hidden capabilities. They're looking for needles in a haystack, trying to spot advanced technology that matches their own. They never stop to consider that the hay itself might be dangerous. The Calaxian elders' crystalline form blazed with renewed purpose. They called us primitive, outdated, worthy only of serving their grand designs. Yes, Cooper agreed, thinking of how the Zentari had mocked humanity's vessels. And that's exactly why they'll never see us coming. The more primitive they think we are, the harder they'll fall. The resistance leaders finished in unison, their various species united in purpose. In orbit above them, Pioneer maintained its deceptive appearance, its systems still broadcasting false signals of mechanical struggle, the perfect camouflage for the revolution about to begin. The combined Liberation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zentari home system, looking like nothing so much as a massive collection of space debris. Derelict mining ships, damaged freighters, and vessels that seemed held together by emergency patches and desperate prayers filled the void. On the bridge of the Pioneer, Captain Mitchell watched the Zentari defense grid light up with warning signals. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "They're detecting our approach exactly as planned." In his crystal palace on the Zentari homeworld, Supreme Commander Kexthu stared at the tactical display with disbelief. This is their grand assault, a fleet of primitive vessels that can barely achieve stable orbit. His tactical officers were similarly dismissive. "Our sensors confirm, my lord. Human vessels, along with ships from various subjugated species, all showing critical systems failures. Most are operating on minimal power. Some appear to be under Tau." "They've gone mad," Kexthu declared, "to attack our homeworld with such a pathetic assemblage. Let them come. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later." Back on Pioneer, Cooper's voice came through the command channel. "All ships report ready, Captain. Every piece of space debris is in position." Mitchell opened a channel to the fleet. "Remember your training. Let them see exactly what they expect to see. A desperate, doomed attack by inferior species. Hold formation. Hold. Now." The first wave of Zentari interceptors swooped in, their advanced targeting systems barely registering the approaching ships as threats. They were far more concerned with avoiding collisions with what appeared to be randomly tumbling debris. That's when the debris field came alive. What looked like damaged hull plates revealed themselves as precisely calibrated weapon platforms. Leaking plasma trails suddenly coalesced into targeting grids that the Zentari's advanced sensors had been programmed to ignore. Emergency beacons transformed into quantum disruptors, perfectly tuned to the frequencies of stolen Zentari shield technology. "Impossible." Kexthu raged as the first wave of his interceptors disappeared in a storm of precisely targeted fire. "Their weapons, they're matching our shield frequencies. How are they targeting through our stealth fields?" "My lord," his science officer's voice shook. "They're not penetrating our defenses. They're using our own filtering algorithms against us. Everything we dismissed as background noise was actually a weapon." Mitchell's voice cut through their command channel. "Surprise, Ambassador. Still think our primitive vessels are worth mocking." The battle unfolded like a masterpiece of deception revealed. Every piece of debris, every apparent malfunction, every sign of technological inferiority had been carefully crafted to exploit the Zentari's blind spots. The Liberation fleet struck from vectors that Zentari sensors had been programmed to ignore, using power signatures that registered as too primitive to be threats. "Quantum shields failing," a Zentari officer screamed. "Our systems can't distinguish between real attacks and sensor ghosts." "Then shut down the filters," Kexthu ordered. "Reset all sensors to basic detection protocols." "That's exactly what we were waiting for." Cooper's voice carried a grim satisfaction. "All ships, execute Maneuver Phoenix." The Pioneer suddenly accelerated in a way that Zentari computers classified as physically impossible, its primitive hull transforming as layers of deceptive plating fell away. The ship that emerged was a perfect fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Centauri technology, understood far more deeply than its original users ever had. "You steal technology," Mitchell transmitted to Kexthu's palace. "We learn it. You copy designs. We understand principles. You mock what you don't comprehend, and that's why you've already lost." The Pioneer led the charge through the Centauri's disarrayed defenses, its weapons striking with surgical precision at weaknesses that only true understanding of the technology could reveal. Behind it came the fleet of the Liberated, each ship showing its true nature at last. In his crumbling palace, Kexthu watched his empire's defenses collapse before what he had dismissed as primitive vessels. His last transmission, sent moments before Pioneer's quantum torpedoes breached his shields, was a single phrase. "How did we not see?" Mitchell's response was lost in the final explosion. "You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. That was your mistake." 1 month after the fall of the Centauri Empire, the Pioneer drifted in high orbit above their former capital world, still wearing its battle-scarred disguise like a badge of honor. In the ship's observation lounge, Captain Mitchell stood with Lieutenant Cooper and representatives from 24 formerly subjugated species, watching the proceedings below. The Galaxian Elder, his crystalline form now restored to its full brilliance, gestured toward the surface. "They're dismantling the last of the processing plants. No more forced biological optimization. No more stolen technology. Just honest progress, at each species' own pace." "Speaking of progress," Cooper said, pulling up a holographic display, "our analysis of the Centauri database is complete. The extent of their technological theft was even greater than we suspected. They didn't develop a single advanced system on their own. Everything was copied, stolen, or forcibly extracted from other civilizations." Mitchell nodded, remembering her first diplomatic encounter with Ambassador Kexthu. They were so focused on appearing advanced that they never bothered to understand the fundamentals. They built an empire on stolen knowledge, without wisdom to guide it. The Nexian engineer, now free of her neural implants, studied the detailed schematics floating before them. "And now, what happens to all this technology?" "That's why we're here," Mitchell said, turning to address the gathered representatives. "The new Galactic Council needs to decide how to proceed. We have access to centuries of advanced technology, but we've all seen the danger of progress without understanding." The Pioneer's main viewer activated, showing scenes from across former Centauri space. Liberated species were rebuilding, many choosing to temporarily step back from advanced technology until they could develop proper foundations for it. Others were working together, combining their unique perspectives to understand the principles behind the tools they'd been forced to use without comprehension. "The Council's first proposal," Mitchell continued, "is what we're calling the Understanding Protocol. No species will be judged by their apparent level of technological advancement. Instead, we'll measure progress by how well they comprehend and improve upon what they have." Cooper brought up new images, the Pioneer's schematics, showing how human engineering had taken borrowed Centauri technology and improved it through real understanding. "We didn't beat them because we were more advanced. We beat them because we took the time to learn how everything worked, from the simplest fusion drive to the most complex quantum shield." The Galaxian Elder's glow pulsed with approval. "And the Pioneer? What becomes of the ship that showed us all how to turn mockery into victory?" Mitchell smiled, looking out at her vessel's scared hull. "She keeps the disguise. Every scratch, every mismatched plate, every seemingly crude system stays exactly as it is. The Pioneer will serve as a permanent reminder that true strength lies not in appearances, but in understanding." A new alert flashed across the main viewer, another group of ships approaching the system. Like the Pioneer, they wore their battle damage proudly, their apparently primitive systems broadcasting clear and strong. "The first graduates of the new Fleet Academy," Cooper explained to the gathered representatives. "Every ship deliberately designed to look less advanced than it is, not for deception now, but as a reminder of the lesson we all learned." The Nexian engineer laughed. The Zentari would be horrified. An entire civilization choosing to look primitive. Not primitive, Mitchell corrected. Wise. Every mark on these ships tells a story. Every seemingly crude system represents knowledge earned rather than stolen. That's what the Zentari never understood. There's no shame in appearing basic if your fundamentals are sound. As they watched, the new ships took up formation around the Pioneer. Their hulls might have looked patchwork, their systems might have seemed outdated, but every officer aboard them understood exactly how their technology worked, from the simplest rivet to the most advanced quantum drive. The Calaxian elder raised a crystalline appendage in salute. To the future, then, built on understanding, not appearance. To the future, Mitchell agreed, watching her scared but proud vessel lead the new fleet in a patrol pattern. And to anyone who thinks mockery is a valid measure of strength, the gathered representatives finished the thought together. Watch the stars burn.